Welcome back. Breaking right now, FBI Director Kash Patel just posted on X, quote, "The FBI is investigating this shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. There were 2 fatalities, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. In addition to those lives lost, 14 children and 3 adults have been injured. A bunch of them remain in critical condition. The shooter has been identified as Robin Westman. Born Robert Westman, the FBI.
We're going to stop there for a second. Born Robert Weston, now Robin Weston, all right? Or Westman, or whatever the name is. The first name is what matters. So we can draw the conclusion that this person was transitioned, or they changed, or they were a different identity. They were born a biological male, and that they identified or transitioned over into being or identifying as a female. Let me say something, bro. We are fighting against principalities just as much as we are fighting against cultural norms and woke culture. And for anybody that calls themselves a conservative, or anybody that says that they love God, or they are a Christian, or they align with conservative principles, but they tend to vote Democrat just because they want to be a part of the go along, get along gang, or they say that they don't like Trump, they need to really check themselves. You really need to come to the front of the congregation and have a conversation with yourself about where you stand on these issues, and if you align on one side or you got to align on the other side, because you can't be both. Even the word of God says that you got to pick one or the other. You cannot be both. You can't serve 2. Lukewarm, he spit you out of his mouth. Either be hot or be cold, because this was a hate crime beyond anything that we could ever imagine in our entire lives. And I believe that people are trying to just reduce this down into just something simple. A guy goes in and he freaking kills a bunch of kids during mass at a Catholic school that's attached to a church, and they different. Come on, man, this is aggravating. This is one of the rare things that actually pissed me off, bro. Seriously, really pissed me off.
The FBI is going to continue to provide updates on our ongoing investigation with the public as we are able. Let's go ahead and bring in retired NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow, an attorney, also a Fox News contributor. Paul, why do you think they are now pursuing this as an act of terrorism?
Look, they may have some indicia that there was this animus toward a particular religious group, which would make it a hate crime and potentially an act of terrorism.
It is a hate crime and it's an act of terrorism. It ain't no potentially to it. We need to just start calling a spade and identifying it for what it really is.
If you have a mass shooting carried out for an ideological purpose, that is to say, if you get violence plus an ideological purpose, you get into the terrorism area. But let's be clear, at the federal level, you almost always need some connection to a foreign power. So the hate crime angle relative to this at the federal level is far more likely than it would be a terrorism case. But look, it's good that they're checking the boxing. It's good that they're looking at it that way. And they may have found something. You know, they may have had an interview with somebody who told them this, or they already got into the computer. There may be something there.
Could a terrorism designation kind of give the investigators more resources, or some kind of a benefit in pursuing, whatever information can be gleaned about this? Now that the guy's dead.
In a practical sense, in a case like this, it's unlikely that it's going to matter. In a terrorism case, the reason you want that designation as a terrorist entity is because what you get then is that anything that's done in furtherance of that terrorist group, let's just say it's Al-Qaeda for the sake of argument, right, in a different instance, then anything you do that's in furtherance of that, think of it as conspiracy. Anything that you're doing in furtherance of the group is chargeable.
I got a mayor right there.
And so that's why you like that bigger designation, because it takes you into a sort of a group. And anything you're doing on behalf of the group, like a RICO charge, anything you're doing on behalf of this group ends up being chargeable. But again, at the federal level, and this is why I've been somebody, and people disagree with me on this, and reasonable minds can disagree. I get it, but I have often advocated that we should be looking hard at a domestic terrorism charge, which can be modeled on the state terrorism charges that do exist around the country, and that is simply violence for an ideological purpose. And you don't need necessarily a protected class, like a religion or a particular
So messed
ethnicity,
up,
but
bro.
violence for an ideological purpose, that would get you to a terrorism charge. We don't have that, and so likely, I think, if the feds do charge here, it'll be more in the hate crime area, unless some fact that we don't know about now comes to light.
Well, and does any of this, I mean, not to be crude, but this guy is a murderer. He is now dead. Does it matter?
No, he's dead, so it doesn't really matter in terms of the investigation. I mean, just to be blunt about it, like I said, unless he does end up getting linked to a group, and let's take the terrorism charge out. Let's say he ends up being linked to a domestic group, let's say a hate group. Well, then it does matter, because what it allows you to do then is to start to scrape into that group. You can make it a conspiracy. You can configure it as a group of people who look to do something like this. And what I've been name checking all day is the thing that we had out in California where that.
I'm not going to continue that. I want to go over to the police chief and what his explanation and the timeline of the events and how it played out, so you guys can actually start to visualize this a little bit.
Earlier today, just before 8:30 a.m., our city experienced an unthinkable tragedy. Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting at a mass that was happening at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church on the block behind me. This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the mass, a gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building.
So bad.
While other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals. Ages 8 and 10 were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack. We will stand together to protect our children, our schools, and our houses of worship. This deliberate act of violence is just a sign of cruelty that is beyond comprehension. Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy. As we begin the difficult path of healing, I want the community to know this, that even in the face of such evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners stand with our community. We stand with these families and with this parish. We will continue to be here for you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay
It's so
updated
sad,
on breaking
bro.
news.
It's so sad. It's so unfortunate that all of these kids have to go through this. No parent, no kid, nobody should ever have to witness or be a part of your kids basically being targeted through the windows by somebody that has an ideological vendetta against you because of your beliefs and you in school and it's the first week of school. It's messed up. Y'all let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Henley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. It's very, very sad.